The Bad Batch, the spin-off off of Clone Wars, premiered on Disney Plus on May the 4th, Star Wars Day, and it's an hour-long premiere. Actually, over an hour long. So let's get into it. I will be covering every single episode of the show every single Friday as it releases, including this upcoming Friday, so stay tuned for that. This episode only dropped on Tuesday because of Star Wars Day, but for the most part, every episode after this is dropping on a Friday, so stay tuned for my reviews of that. If you like me covering Disney Plus Star Wars content, I tend to do that a lot here, so subscribe to this channel. Also, if you like to see me cover more Disney Plus content, well, you can subscribe to my second channel where I tend to review more of the National Geographic and shorts, and then also subscribe to this channel where I cover more of the major Disney Plus shows and movies as they release. So let's start with this one. This episode is right after Order 66. I think everybody knew that. Actually, spoiler warning, just straight up. So if you want spoilers for this first episode, go watch it. It's up now on Disney Plus. This episode takes place right after Order 66, and you see some hints to where this could go. Was it just me, or did that one Jedi at the beginning of the episode, I think his name was Caleb? No, he's a Padawan, not a Jedi. But, was it just me, or did he look and kind of sound like Kanan a little bit? And, we know that Kanan was a kid during Order 66, but, I thought that was Kanan, which was interesting for a minute, and then they said Caleb, so I'm like, no, it's not Kanan. I actually think it would be nice to see Caleb in the show, or some other Rebel characters, or hints to other Rebel characters. Like, imagine an episode where the Bad Batch meets his parents. Because Ezra, I don't think, would be born yet, if the timeline works out right, yeah. So I think that would be cool. Stuff like that. Like, just little fan service things could be fun. This show, basically, this episode just functioned as, like, a setup, right? We're they're figuring out what Order 66 is. They're not really sure. One thing I don't like about this episode, though, and I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this who have talked about this episode, is that it doesn't portray Order 66 as that much of a tragedy, right? When that Jedi died at the beginning of this episode, they didn't really focus on it. They brushed right over it. When you watch the Clone Wars, it made it a tragedy. Now, I get why for these clones it's not that big of a tragedy, because these are not regular clones. They don't really have the attachments to the Jedis. But still, they don't even really react that much. All they're reacting is to their clones acting differently. And at the end of the day, these are still kind of their brothers in a sense. Echo worked alongside the Jedi. You would think he would have a strong reaction, but it feels like nobody really has a strong reaction to Order 66, this Empire coming in. They're mostly just confused and trying to figure it out. Which, I like seeing different characters trying to survive and be on the run from Order 66 and go do different jobs. Kind of like the A-Team, that kind of thing. I think that's a cool idea, but, I feel like there's not much, here's the tragedy of the actual, the tragedy of Order 66, And I think that's my problem. It's I want to feel more of that tragedy, more of that feel to this. But I don't feel it that much, which is interesting. I think this is a cool idea, but I don't feel like it works out well enough. It's always kind of bothered me a little bit throughout this episode. Really did. Grand Moff Tarkin's just trusting through clones in this episode. I like that idea. And I'm not really sure how to feel about this girl. And I don't want to even make any real judgments about her. Because the hard thing about it is, this is the first episode. And, going off of this first episode, she could become way better throughout the show, but in this episode, she's just kind of an annoying girl character, and they keep asking her what her deal is, and she's kind of not really stating what her deal is. You don't even get why she's here, and she wants to be friends with the clones, but for what reason you're not really sure. I thought it was like something else, like she has a motive, but she doesn't, and I think that bothered me throughout this episode. So she's just gonna kind of like tag along through these episodes, which is kind of like, yes, I get the show has to kind of appeal to kids, and you don't really have characters who are kids or cute animal characters that kids will appeal to, but I don't think that matters because majority of people who will watch this show, number one, are adults. That's the majority of people who watch the Clone Wars, and the Clone Wars didn't have cute animal side characters. You know what I mean? So I don't feel like this was necessary. You know, the last few episodes of Clone Wars were incredibly dark, and and not like dark to where a kid couldn't watch it, but they're just kind of like, that show didn't feel like it needed to majorly appeal to kids. I don't feel like this does needed to. I think they should have had a little bit more faith in it if that's why she's here. I don't know if that's why she's here. I don't know if she could become a great character. That'd be great if she would become like some really interesting character. I don't know. But I think she could become a complaint throughout the show. I don't know. Now, I think the clones, I still think there should have been more tragedy played onto the clones. But we'll have to see where the rest of the show goes. I think this was a pretty good premiere. I think it set things up. I don't feel like it needed to be as long as it was. I think maybe some of the action scenes could have been trimmed down a little bit because we're talking like over an hour long. This is almost a feature length movie. Like it's like, I think like an hour and 10 minutes kind of credits like that. 20 more minutes. This could have been like a movie that you put on Disney Plus. Like I don't feel like it needed to be as long as it was. I think yes, it had a lot to set up, but I don't feel like that. We have to. I'm interested to see where that Jedi kick comes into play. I'm interested to see that. I want to see where stuff like that goes, but I'm not really sure how this whole thing is going to work out. It's a great episode for like a setup, but not really so much to see where everything kind of goes or get a good idea of how the show's gonna be. Like, so I enjoyed the pilot. I just think it could have been a little bit shorter. Could have like played into the tragedy of Order 66 a little bit more. But we'll have to wait and see. Maybe it will become a bigger focus without the show. Maybe it just takes these clones to actually take a minute to realize it. But I do not know. Alright, see you guys next time.